Listen, guys like us have a lot in common. We work hard, we get things done, we wake up clean, we come home dirty. But that's not all. Guys like us, real pros, we're safety obsessed. Now, anyone who makes a living turning bolts knows that an accident on the job can get you hurt. I'm not talking about paper cuts or even a smashed thumb. I'm talking about you or somebody you work with ending up in the hospital, or worse. Let me ask you a question. Who hasn't used the wrong tool every once in a while, or modified one to make it work for the job you're trying to get done? I have, but I've seen what happens when people choose speed over safety, and that's why I'm here to talk to you. Here at Proto, they make the same industrial tools we use on the job all the time. Now, they're built and tested to be as safe, reliable, and hard-working as possible. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to make sure that we're using them in the right way. That means keeping them in great condition, inspecting them, and always using the right tool for the right job. Now, clearly, you don't need me to tell you how to do your job, just like I don't need anybody telling me how to do mine. But even a real pro can make a mistake, and the stakes are high. So, we could all use a refresher. Always wear safety gear that's right for the job you're doing. And if you're gonna wear anything, make sure it's your safety glasses. A little shard can do some serious damage, and it only takes one time to lose an eye. Now, once you've got those on, you might also need to put on a hard hat, ear protection, back supports, gloves, and steel-toed boots. Never wear loose or baggy clothing on the job site. It's easy for a sleeve or a pant leg to get caught in the machinery. Okay, we've got that covered. Let's get to the tools. Everybody knows not to use a hand socket on a power tool or impact gun. And here's why. Each kind of socket is manufactured with a different hardness that's specific to its function. Impact sockets are made of a softer metal that can absorb the shock and speed of an impact gun. Hand sockets aren't, even though they sometimes look the same. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hand sockets are chrome and impact sockets are black oxide, but that's not 100% true. Check out this black oxide socket. You think it's for an impact wrench? It's not. This one is for a ratchet, and even though it looks nearly identical, the decision to put this socket on an impact gun could blow up in your face. Literally. Because that socket's been designed for a ratchet, it's just not strong enough to stand up to the impact gun. When it shatters, one of those flying shards could cause serious injury. Stay safe. Inspect the tool before you use it. Make sure it's not worn out. If you see rounded, cracked, or damaged surfaces, usually starting at the points of the socket, get a new one. Then, check the wall thickness on the socket. If it's thick, fire away on that impact gun. If it's thin, you've probably got yourself a hand socket. But look a little closer, because Proto also makes thin wall impact sockets too. Now, an even better way to be sure that it's an impact socket is to look for the through-hole and groove feature. It's designed for a retaining ring and pin to secure the socket to the tool's anvil. And there's something else you need to think about. Mismatched and worn extensions. If you use the wrong one, you'll wear down your tools and fastener corners, causing the tool to slip. Now, the best way to avoid this is to increase the surface contact. Use the same number of points as your fastener whenever possible. The fewer number of points that you use, the more surface contact you can get. This gives you more power and makes the job easier, not to mention safer. Now, if you have to, you can use double the number of points. So for a 6-point fastener, you can use a 12-point socket. But just remember that 6-point sockets are a lot less likely to slip on undersized or badly worn fasteners. One more thing. Always use retaining rings and impact-rated extensions and adapters on any impact application. If you need more torque, use a long-handled ratchet or a torque multiplier. Now, that's a lot of info, so before I move on, let's recap. Even if they look alike, hand sockets and impact sockets are never interchangeable, so always choose the right one for the job. Always inspect your tools for wear and replace them when necessary. Use the same or double the number of points for any fastener. To increase your torque, use a long-handled ratchet or a torque multiplier. I don't have to tell you that wrenches are one of the most commonly used tools on the job, but that means they're also one of the most misused. Let's take a look and see what I mean. Now, you know not to use a cheater bar because it'll over-torque your wrench. That's tool safety 101. But there are a couple of other things to keep in mind. No matter what kind of wrench you're using, it's important to remember to always pull the wrench toward you, since your body generates more power that way. More power means more control, and more control makes the job safer and easier. But depending on the specific job and wrench, there are other things you should think about. Now, there are as many different kinds of wrenches as there are jobs. Pipe wrenches, flare nut wrenches, ratcheting wrenches, and adjustable wrenches, for example. Always use the right wrench and the right size. And most of the time, a combination wrench is going to be your safest choice because it gives you the most contact with the fastener. Use the box end for loosening and final tightening. Use the open end for working a loose fastener. Now, if you can, use the combo wrench to break the fastener loose and then run it up with a ratchet. Or if you're tightening, you can run it down with a ratchet and do your final tightening with the box end of the combination wrench. You'll get a little more precision and control. If you've got a really tight fastener, you can use a torque multiplier. The gearing system delivers greater torque. Or try a longer ratchet or a breaker bar for more leverage. But if it's really stuck, use a slugging wrench with some penetrating oil, since it's been manufactured to withstand the impact of a striking tool. Now, with an adjustable wrench like this one, make sure it's adjusted to grip the fastener tightly. Always torque on the fixed jaw, not the adjustable side. Finally, to keep from slipping and busting your knuckles, use a ratcheting wrench, or a wrench like this one, which has been designed with an anti-slip end. It has a locking groove that helps keep the wrench from slipping off the fastener. Plus, it increases available torque and reduces damage to fasteners. There's another thing we should talk about: pliers. It might resemble an adjustable wrench, but just like any other tool, it's been designed for a specific function. In this case, bending, compressing, and holding objects firmly. Using pliers to loosen or tighten can damage a fastener or cause the tool to slip, making the job tougher and slowing you down. Okay, so let's review. To increase your leverage, use a longer ratcheting tool or torque multiplier, never a cheater bar. Always pull a wrench toward you to maximize your power and control. And with an adjustable wrench, pull against the fixed jaw. Always choose the right size wrench designed for the job you're doing. Use a wrench with an anti-slip design to increase your torque, reduce fastener damage, and put yourself in control. Screwdrivers. They're made for loosening and tightening screws, but they have a funny way of becoming makeshift pry bars, chisels, and other tools on the job, and that can get you hurt. Screwdrivers are designed to take a twisting force, and a pry bar is designed to take a bending force. If you use one for the other, it could fail. Another thing that could get you hurt is using a screwdriver for its intended purpose the wrong way. Don't hold your work in one hand and the screwdriver in the other. We've all done it, but use a clamp or a vise instead. It takes a little more time, but it only takes one slip to puncture your hand. That's serious. But some mistakes with a screwdriver could even kill you, especially when working around electricity. Just because a screwdriver has a rubber handle, don't assume it's insulated against electricity. Most cushion grips are just designed for comfort. Any insulated tool will be marked that way, so look for the label. No matter what tool you're using, always follow proper lockout procedures and use insulated mats, electrician's gloves, and eye protection. Now, depending on where you work, the steps might be different, but generally it's easy and fast, and it could save your life. There are life and death decisions made on this job. Slow down. It pays to use your head and be safety obsessed. Proto offers a number of insulated tools, including screwdrivers and pliers, which are easy to spot. Their VSE series tools have been designed to keep you safer with 2 layers of insulation, an orange top layer and an underlying yellow layer. If the top layer becomes worn or damaged, you'll see the yellow layer show through. When you do, stop. It's time to replace it. Remember, when it comes to safety and screwdrivers, never use a screwdriver as a pry bar or chisel. It's designed only to loosen and tighten screws. Keep your body out of harm's way by using a vise or clamp, and not your hand to hold an object. Always follow proper lockout procedures, and never assume your screwdriver is insulated against electricity. Look for the label. Oh, and there's one more thing to consider, and it's something most of us have probably done more than once or twice. Don't put screwdrivers in your pockets. If you trip, stumble, or bump into something, well, do I really have to say anything? Striking and struck tools are simple to use, but that doesn't mean they don't require skill. If you're not paying attention, they can do some damage. Now, consider this. A 16-ounce hammer, probably smaller than your morning cup of coffee, can deliver 3 tons of force per blow. Now imagine the damage these guys could do if used improperly. Steel ball-peen hammers, claw hammers, soft-faced hammers, composite hammers, rubber mallets, awls, chisels, punches. You get the idea. There are a lot of different striking tools with a variety of functions. You know what they are. And no matter which one you use, the first step is always the same. Choose the right tool for the right job. Wood chisels for wood. Masonry chisels for concrete and rock. Hardened cold chisels for steel. It's pretty self-explanatory. A little smart thinking can go a long way in keeping you safe and getting the job done right. Make sure that the hammer is the right size. Now that means that the striking face should always be at least 3/8 of an inch larger than the punch or chisel head. Now at Proto, they have hammers with a rim-tempered face. That means the middle of the hammer's face is manufactured to be the hardest part, while the edges are softer. Now this reduces the risk of chipping or spalling during a glancing blow. But it's not enough to trust that your hammer's always in working order. Always put on your safety gear and inspect the tool before using it. Check to see if the striking face shows excessive wear. Replace it if it's mushrooming, chipped, or dented, or if the handle is loose. Remember, never use steel tools near flammables, and never use a dull tool. Secure the struck tool with a punch or chisel holder, which keeps your hand away from the striking tool out of harm's way. Proto offers a number of tools that can help you with this. Okay, so let's review. Always select the right tool for the job. Inspect tools regularly for wear and tear, and replace them if needed. Obviously, you never strike with the side, and always strike squarely. Make sure that the striking face of the hammer has a diameter of at least 3/8 of an inch larger than the face of the struck tool. Otherwise, the hammer could slip, and your hand is the only thing that will get struck. Always use non-sparking tools near flammables, and never use a dull tool, unless you want to look like one. When you think about a tool that could hurt you, I'd bet a utility knife is one of the first things that come to mind. Now, everybody knows that using a blade that's too small or too dull is an accident waiting to happen, and leaving a knife unattended or prying something open with a knife or stashing one in your pocket could land you or a coworker in the ER. Don't be careless. Snips, cutters, utility knives, and other cutting tools give you the power to cut through all kinds of materials, from fine wires to heavy-duty materials. You don't want to be one of them. So put on your safety gear and always choose the right cutting tool for the job. First, check your surroundings. Make sure you have plenty of space around you. Otherwise, you could unintentionally slice someone behind you, or they could bump into you and cause you to cut yourself. Always consider a material's thickness when selecting a tool. Never rock the tool while cutting. Work evenly and steadily to minimize your own risk of getting cut. Standard utility knife blades, snap blades, and round point blades like this one offer more ways to cut and to cut yourself. Keep safe by making sure the blade is sharp and seated properly in the knife. When you begin cutting, pull the knife toward you. Make sure to keep your body out of the cutting line, and don't forget to look around again for anyone nearby. When you're done, dispose of the dull blade in a blade container, or wrap it in thick tape before throwing it away. Now, usually, retractable blade knives are the safest choice, but sometimes the job calls for a fixed blade knife. In that case, always make sure to keep it in a holster when you're not using it. So, to recap, never leave a knife unattended or use it for an unintended purpose. Don't put a knife in your pocket. Always use the right cutting tool for the job. Start with a sharp blade that's big enough for the job. Dispose of used blades in blade containers or wrapped in heavy tape. And store a fixed blade knife in a holster. Some tools are so simple that you might not think they could be dangerous. As you know, gear pullers are made for removing gears and bearings from machines, nothing else. To get the job done right, you have to use the largest jaw puller that will fit. Now, if you can, use a 3-jaw puller, and always use legs that are no longer than you need them to be. Another tool with one use and one use only, that's a C-clamp. It's used to hold your work in place, and that's it. Never use a C-clamp to pull or lift an object. It's for holding things still, not moving them around. If you want to pull or lift something safely, try an eye bolt or a hoist hook equipped with a safety latch. Now, always make sure to cut off the power first if you're working near electricity. Then, inspect your C-clamp to make sure it's in working order before putting it to work. And if it's showing signs of wear and tear, replace the screw or the pad or the whole thing. Otherwise, your work could slip and you may get injured. Apply your clamping force perpendicular to the work surface it's securing. Then fully engage the pressure pad and the anvil. Once you've made sure your work surface is secure, you can get down to business. It's pretty straightforward. Always use the right gear puller for the job, and a 3-jaw puller when you can. Use C-clamps to hold your work in place, not to hoist or move an object. And always inspect the tool carefully before you use it. You can tell just by looking at a torque wrench that it isn't your typical wrench. They come in a number of different sizes and types: dial, micrometer, and electronic. Now, they're designed to do jobs with surgical precision. Now, that means they have their own special set of considerations, and if used correctly, chances are you won't get hurt using one. Make sure you calibrate often and schedule your recalibrations based on the manufacturer's specifications. If you use a torque wrench that's out of calibration, you might as well be guessing. And that sort of defeats the purpose of using an expensive precision tool. You'd never risk using a cheater bar on a precision instrument or use it to loosen fasteners. But there are other ways to damage a torque wrench. Make sure you pay attention. Stop tightening when it reaches the desired level of torque, or you could overload it. For a micrometer torque wrench, you'll know when you hear a click. But for dial and beam types, you've got to keep an eye on that indicator and stop when it reaches the right level. When you're done, remember to store your micrometer torque wrench at 20% of its maximum setting to protect the spring and extend the tool's life. Interchangeable torque wrenches have been designed to interface with electronic, micrometer, and preset handles. They attach to 3 styles of interchangeable heads: box head, open end, and ratcheting head, so they can be very useful if you work with different size fasteners frequently. Proto offers interchangeable head torque wrenches equipped with warning lights, so you'll know when you've reached or exceeded the recommended torque level. To keep from over-torquing the fastener, it's a good idea to check for the maximum recommended torque value, marked directly on the tool as well. Now, just so we're all clear here, when it comes to precision instruments like torque wrenches, never use them to loosen fasteners. Calibrate them often. Always stop tightening as soon as it reaches the desired torque, and make them last longer by storing them at 20% of their maximum setting. Speaking of maintenance and storage, storing any tool properly extends its lifespan, makes it easier to locate, and makes it safer to use. Don't expose your tools to the elements needlessly. Don't throw your tools around. Do keep them clean. Do inspect them regularly. And do replace them as needed. But that's not all. Proper storage makes your work environment safer. Now, you probably wouldn't think that a piece of storage equipment could hurt you, but think again. Tool cabinets like this one weigh a ton, literally. And if you're not careful, they can fall on you. So never open more than one drawer at a time. And don't use open drawers as a step ladder. After all, you're no kid. A few more things to remember. Lock the drawers when moving it. Always push, never pull a cabinet. And lock the casters when it's parked. So be smart. It might seem extreme right now, but being safety obsessed every day can save your life, or at least save you some embarrassment. That's it. It's simple, really. The bottom line is, tool safety is just common sense. And real pros know that being safety obsessed is a 24/7 job. Now that means wearing safety gear, using the right tool for the right job, and never using altered or Frankenstein tools. Plus, real pros replace worn or broken tools regularly. Never work around live electricity. Use caution with striking tools, and they always store, use, and dispose of blades the right way. Proto builds the kind of quality industrial tools that can help you make safety obsessed a full-time job. But it's up to you to make sure they're the right ones every time and in the right condition to help you get the job done effectively and safely. Well, that's my time. Thanks for watching. and stay safe out there.